Hello, and welcome to another episode of Askewed Reviews. And today I was once again lucky enough to get an early access screener to a film that is now in theaters from my friends over at Strike Media. The movie that I'm referring to is the 2026 film Dolly, directed and co-written by Rod Blackhurst. So if you happen to know what Dolly is or have seen any of the trailers, you can probably tell that this movie seems to be a love letter to classic grindhouse horror films. So this movie is currently on a limited release in theaters. So let me tell you more about it to see if this is something that you'd want to check out while you still can. The film starts off with us meeting our two main characters of Chase and Macy, who at the moment are dropping off Chase's daughter at his aunt's house so that the two of them can go on a little wilderness excursion. Now, Chase actually does have an ulterior motive to going on this little trip. He plans on asking Macy to marry him while they're out there at one of his favorite spots. Macy, by the way, is not even remotely oblivious to this. She is well aware of what's about to happen on this trip, but she's also potentially very reluctant. She doesn't really know if marriage is something that she wants, especially when going into a relationship where there's already a child. Now, she does get along really well with Chase's daughter, but is still not 100% sure about this. However, though, her best friend is trying to talk her into it. Now, also during the beginning of the film, we get to meet our third main character, Dolly. She is a very imposing figure that immediately we discover she's involved with some sort of bloody and violent situation, which we learn more about as the movie progresses. Eventually, Chase does get Macy to his favorite spot in the woods, and right as he's about to propose to her, they begin to hear some weird and slightly just off music. Now, Chase makes the worst decision ever and tries to find out where that's coming from. Chase then ends up stumbling upon Dolly, who's in the middle of a ceremony of sorts, and is not very happy about Chase's sudden appearance. So she kind of takes out that frustration on him in a way that he may not be able to come back from. At this point, Macy is now feeling like things are taking too long. So when she goes to find Chase, she does end up discovering him, but also Dolly, who has now decided that Macy is her new little plaything and brings her back home. As a prisoner in Dolly's home, Macy seems to have two choices. One, going along with this very awkward mother daughter relationship and hope that someone is able to rescue her, or two, decide to fight back and see if she can actually free herself from this prison. And if you want to see how this story ends, go and see Dolly for yourselves. Going into this film, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I did have a bit of high hopes for it, mainly due to the fact that the trailer gave it this gritty grindhouse feel that I was very much interested in. And honestly, it did follow up on that. The atmosphere, look, and feel absolutely just hit exactly on the target. This movie, it feels kind of like a blend between the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and In a Violent Nature. The character of Dolly, by the way, is such a great, creepy, imposing figure that definitely has that Leatherface feel to her. And I would be interested to see what happens if they make a sequel to this. There is a song during the end credits that does seem to imply that a sequel could happen for this film. Now, as a bit of a spoiler warning, but not really revealing anything plot wise, there is an end credits sequence that I kind of felt was a bit of a waste. I would have liked to have seen something different. In fact, there's an idea I had for the end credits that won't be a spoiler, but those of you who have seen the movie will understand what I'm getting at with this. I think it would have been so dark and yet slightly comedic if at the end credits we go quickly back to a character that ends up still being alive, maybe just quick eye movement or a breath or something. I know it would have been so horrifying, but there's some part of me that would have enjoyed that. Also, two other things that I do want to mention that very much dance on the edge of being spoiler territory, but I just have to talk about this. First, one of the characters has an impairment, we'll say. I visually really liked how that looked. The audio, I don't feel matches up with how that would actually be represented. If you've seen the movie, I think you know what I'm referring to. Second, Macy as one of the main characters, I thought she was good, but I was driven crazy with the amount of dumb decisions that she made. Not bad, dumb. Like, just the worst choices. And I get it. Horror movies, you have that character that is kind of bumbling and whatnot. But I feel like Macy as a person was more intelligent than the choices that she was making. And I still feel like you could have done some of the sequences that came about because of those choices, but without making her seem so just unintelligent. Although, to be honest, Chase and even other characters that appear in this movie, really no one seems to be smart or clever. Everyone seems to make really bad choices. On a much brighter note, though, I do absolutely want to mention as well that the level of violence and the effects done in this movie are great. So many just gory, gruesome moments that I absolutely loved. So if you are like me and absolutely love brutal horror films, definitely go and check out Dolly while it's in theaters. For me, on my scale, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. Now, if you've already seen Dolly, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. And just one more big shout out. Thank you to my friends at Strike Media for giving me another early access screener. I can't wait to see what you guys send to me next.